Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations.
Welcome, travelers. My name is Lee Monica, and this is Tabletop Journeys presentation of Star Trek Preservations. Thanks for coming back to the show. We're getting ready to start our latest adventure. Very excited to be here with our amazing cast. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're going to jump right into it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Harney, and I am playing Captain Sabian Tobor, the Trill Commanding Officer of the U.S.S. Dilamus Christian, the Federation Saber-class starship that is the hero ship for our story.
Hi, I'm Adam Scaramella, and I portray Commander Ocean Chiselor, the Dilamus Christian's Andorian First Officer.
Hi, I'm David Rideout. I play Lieutenant Commander Davidian Tanari, the Andorian Chief Engineer of the Dilamus Christian. And we just got a mysterious signal from space that began, "My name is John Crichton. I just got shot through a wormhole."
Hi everybody, my name's Lacey Knudsen and I'm playing Narila Nilan, the science officer of the Dilamus Christian.
Wonderful. And with those introductions out of the way, we're going to jump right into our current episode of Star Trek Preservations, Some Like It Hot.
Captain's Log, Stardate 59453.62. We have arrived in orbit of Lano, a Genesis-born protoplanet under continuous observation by a Federation science team out of Ashland Station. Though Class M in designation, the surface is a cauldron of intense geothermal energy and humidity levels that would exhaust even a Tellarite marathon runner. Even the science team's Vulcan science officer has commented unfavorably on the conditions. The science team reports missing data, unexplained energy fluctuations, and an unsettling silence from one of their surface teams. Our mission is to assist with the analysis, reinforce their limited computer resources, and continue the survey. However, initial scans suggest something deeper is happening. A localized subspace field is breaking down, and with it, the fragile balance of this nascent world may be unraveling.
Wonderful. As we begin, the Dilamus Christian has arrived in orbit of the protoplanet Lano. Not terribly far from Ashland Station, general area space, didn't take too long to get here, sort of situation. From the moment you arrive, readings and sensor readings on the Dilamus Christian take note of the very high to extreme temperature issues that are on the planet's surface, such that EV suits are pretty much required if you're doing any kind of extra facility or extra vehicular activity on the planet. That is a known factor for the situation. As you arrive, you are hailed from the planet and the science station. It's a pretty small operation. It's basically a small complex, one main building, a couple connected smaller outbuildings, and a portion of it is in underground facilities located somewhat close to the equator of the world, because that way they can identify and get more readings and do better study on what's happening with the planet. You're hailed They basically have already said, welcome to Lano. We're anxious to get started. I'll let you ask any questions you might need to know about the mission, and then I'll respond with the answers of what is known. And if anything you're asking for requires some rolls, we'll do that. But there is a lot of known information. This is a known facility, a known mission, a known group of people. So a lot of the basics you would actually know or understand. But as players, if you just need to have that fresh in your mind, feel free to ask. I'll certainly freely give that. No rolls are necessary for the basic stuff going on here.
For the
Yes.
adventure, do we have any formal mission objectives that, for example, that we will need to answer at the end of the adventure?
That's a wonderful question. So let me go ahead and provide you with that information. Yes. The mission directives are: one, assist the Aslan Station Planetary Survey team with the analysis of anomalous sensory readings on Lano. Two, investigate the nature and origin of the subspace distortions that are affecting Lano's stabilization. Three, conduct a planetary survey and collect scientific data from the Genesis formed protoplanet. And four, determine the cause of irregular energy patterns threatening the planetary destabilization. That in conjunction with all your standard missions that your crew would have based on being part of the regional group and operating in Talarian space.
And when we talk about Genesis planet, we are talking about full-blown terraforming.
Correct.
So Lee, real quick. Yes, no, but we're in 2382. So from a Star Trek lore perspective, there's only one new Genesis-like planet I know of.
Yep.
And that one was created by having a paywall on a bomb, if you catch what
Yep.
I'm meaning. Is this the planet?
Sure.
Awesome.
I was not sure if there was more than one, so I was content to have it be a separate one, but I'm happy to make it be that planet.
I love the crossover.
It is what gave me that idea. So it was like, yeah, there could be other Genesis planets, and even if they're not supposed to happen, would Starfleet pass up the opportunity to learn all they possibly could from it? Now that you have the directives, we'll go right to the cast. Any questions, queries, posers, things you think you might want to know about?
Yeah, so who's the commander of the survey team?
Lieutenant Commander Aisha Mabaye is the lead scientist. She's a human science officer in Starfleet. The assistant team lead is Lieutenant J.G. Thalor Javashti, the Andorian assistant science lead.
And they indicated that there was a squad that had fallen out of touch.
Yes, they do have a part of their team that has been out of communication for longer than they would hope.
So they have one squad that's fallen out of touch. How
Yep.
large is this survey team?
About 12 people total. So they've got a group of scientists that are out of touch. That group of scientists includes a pilot and an engineer and several scientists. And then at the primary facility is where the rest of the team remains. And they have 2 security people there as well.
Is that 12 people who are missing or 12 people total for the whole?
12 people total. So 6 have not reported in and 6 are at the station.
So half of their team is missing or
Correct.
out of touch.
Correct.
And to Joe's earlier point, the idea of a terraformed planet, the Genesis planet, is this still something that is considered to be top secret / taboo / people are not really happy about this?
A violation of the Algernon Treaty? Yeah.
So, yeah, the fact that Genesis device exists is publicly avoided. It's not even denied because it's such a well-known thing. The fact that there was a recent Federation failure of security is probably less well-known. So it is classified to a point. Starfleet personnel are well aware of the existence of it, the protocols involved with it. Anybody with any kind of level of security might know of what to do in the event of, but very few people would know that this has even happened. It is more like here's where Federation and Starfleet security failed in the past. This is why we don't do that. It's practically an ethics course at the Starfleet Science Academy. everybody hears about. This is why you don't rush your scientific experiments, because things can go very badly.
The conditions on the planet, do they interfere with any of our systems like sensors or transporters or anything like that?
They're not interfering at this point, but you haven't really got a good try on it. They are telling you there's subspace issues. They're telling you that there's geothermic issues, and this is a Genesis planet. So they are studying things to have information so that the Federation has a better idea of what they're dealing with all these things. In addition to, if you can parse the data and actually record what happens when this happens, you are seeing the evolution of a planet. It is rife with all kinds of really important scientific data. The main reason why they called, and they called before people were missing, is because the appearance of the subspace issue is an anomaly that is weird, and that's a problem. Back in the 2200s, when Khan's Genesis device went off, they didn't have science teams to study the results as it was happening. It happened too fast. Nobody was really monitoring the situation. They were just trying to hide the fact that it happened. This time, they sent a science team so they could record data. Like, it's a bad thing, but at least if we can get some useful information out, we can do something with it. The subspace field is anomalous and basically polluting or clouding the data, so they need help with figuring it out. And that's where the DC has been called on. As you're getting there, you find out more about missing team members and that they're having some problems.
So I assume at this point, now that we're here, we'll have the COXO of the expedition join us up on the Dilamus Christian. We'll have this conversation in the conference room, I imagine.
Let me get to that in just a second. And did anybody else have any questions or things that they might think that they need to know as players before we get started?
So one other thing that I might be looking to find out, and I would probably be doing this through Rilla, ask her advice or her opinion on this. Why do we have, is there any reason why this planet, as I'm looking, must be looking at the mission log, is so blasted hot? So I suspect that she doesn't know yet.
But I would do my due diligence to see what I can come up with for some hypotheses before we get into it.
Yes.
I think you would probably need more information. Now that you're here, you'll have access to be able to get them a pretty quick answer. But if you all are congregating in the conference room at this moment, you probably wouldn't have that answer off the top of your head. But that might be a great kind of first step kind of thing to figure out, like what's going on with the temperature. With that, you're in the conference room. You, Captain, you've asked to have the science lead and the assistant come up so you can discuss things. Is that correct?
Yeah, and whoever else they want, I don't know if they want to leave the four remaining, the two security, two scientists on planet, or all six of them are happy to come up.
Okay. The lead scientist, Aisha, or Lieutenant Commander Mabaye, she actually responds to the question by saying, Captain, I appreciate the offer, but things are a little too tense here. I want to be able to confer and discuss the situation, but I can't leave my station terribly long, and we are all needed. With our team members long gone, we are trying our best to complete our work safely. We are at present safe enough for you to send a team down to assist us in completing the mission so we can all leave as soon as possible. And in this hail, you notice that they are inside the facility. They are all wearing EV suits, and you can see the perspiration and like the fog around the outsides of the glass of the EV suit.
I have Staven mute the communication.
Yep.
And I look over my shoulder at Nilan at the station. What is she feeling?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Can you get an empathetic read on her?
So I don't have to roll for this, right? I can get a general surface
Yep,
emotion.
that is correct.
So I would like to take it.
Yep. She is very scared. She is very nervous. And that seems to be the primary thing that you're able to get. If you'd like to inquire deeper, perhaps make a deeper insight, then we can talk some roles. But
You know that I do want to get a deep.
He says with a leading question with earth and evil in his heart.
Uh, do I usually do this with a reason or insight?
I would say it's definitely insight, and whether or not you think of it as a command or medicine.
So
Um,
I want to suss out if that she's like scared for physical or if it's like a social response. Is
okay.
she worried for her life because something's affecting her? Or is she worried because I feel like we've had a lot of instances where we've come across science officers specifically feeling pressure to do a specific thing.
Yeah. Is it a job security kind of fear, or is it a I'm in mortal danger kind of fear?
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfectly valid question to inquire. Because she is actually not trying to hide anything and you're just not asking the questions directly, it's going to be a fairly easy roll. It's only going to be a one difficulty. I will say that there is a complication of 19 and 20 because we are doing this over hailing frequencies and communications versus in person.
Okay.
So
I'm
there
just
is
gonna go for it.
there is a danger involved here.
All right. So I have a 3 and a 15. So no 19s, and I think that's a success.
That is a success. Was that two successes or just one?
How it only works if is it 2 successes if I have a relevant focus? Is that right?
Yes.
I think the closest I have virology and xenobiology. I don't know if either of those quite fit, but those are the closest.
You
She's
may want
human, and I would say, as a human, she's Federation common. I would not think xenobiology would cover that.
Okay.
I tend to think of the core Federation piece as not being xeno to anybody within the core Federation. Joe, you had a thought?
And even on that note, what I've been doing, especially with the end of Discovery being what it was, I only use xenobiology for humanoids that are part of the progenitor creation, are like
Yeah.
category 2 arms, 2 legs, circulatory
Yeah.
system stuff. That's biology. And then hortas and rock creatures, those are biology type things. That's
Yeah.
my demarcation point.
Yeah, and I like that even better than mine. I think that's what I was leaning towards when I was thinking core Federation species, because TOS pretty much dealt with two arms, two legs as a general statement. But I think I like your definition because it embraces IDIC in a much better way. So, yeah, definitely use that definition for Xeno versus non-Xeno.
Now,
Uh,
Lacey, you may consider
Biology.
swapping out one of your lesser used focuses for empathy slash telepathy, as you've been training and working on your mind juju skills.
When can you change out focuses? I think that's what is a little unclear to me.
By the book, it's anytime you use a value after the session, you can swap it out. But like we've had so many sessions where that's occurred and you haven't exercised that option. I'm sure Lee would let you.
Yeah, if there was a focus that you have not used at all, I would say just swap it right now because this is something you've done multiple times and are consistently asked. I think that would be a fair way to handle that.
Done.
So in that case, yes, you have a relevant focus.
I think the problem is when I was creating this character, I was not super clear what the focuses were. It's like brand new, like
Yep.
a little baby.
It's
Dark.
essentially we're using a modified create a character in play because as things come up, you're like, oh, that makes sense for my character. So we do that.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
I'm making it sound like it was on purpose.
All right. And so you did not roll any complications, so I do not get to use my communications complications tables from the new STA technical manual like I was hoping to do. But
Oh
that's
no,
okay.
I'm so sad.
That's okay.
That
Tanara's
just
yet
means
to
I have
roll. Well,
that just means I haven't rolled yet.
yeah, we'll get there, I'm sure. All right. You can tell that this is her primal fear here is physical security. She feels endangered. She feels hurried and rushed. Whatever that danger is, that's why she's very focused. She doesn't want to take any time away because of that's her response to this fear.
Okay, so I'll share that they're in dire straits. time is of the essence.
I'll turn back. Resume communication, Mr. Staven.
Aye, sir.
Commander, perhaps I was unclear that my invitation was politely phrased, but it was not an invitation, it's an order.
She looks around. She looks particularly frustrated with that response. And she says, if you're ordering me to leave my people in a dire situation, I will, of course, follow your orders, sir. I would respectfully ask that you allow my assistant to continue their work.
How about we, being the 6 members of your team you haven't lost onto the ship, and we can all look for the remaining 6 from here with our state-of-the-art advanced sensors array? Would that be acceptable, Commander?
From off camera, you hear a voice. And Tanari and Ocean, you actually can pick the accent of this voice, even through universal translators. They're speaking in that common language, but the accent is from a fairly remote area on the homeworld of the Andorians. And it's so remote that most Andorians would regard folks from there as being, quote unquote, Hicks. This is the sticks of Andoria that this person is from. He's got that affectation, and that indicates that. But you also recognize that accent as being from an area that has generally produced some of the most dedicated and focused in Imperial Guard warriors throughout history. Like, they're well regarded for their fierceness in combat and battle and all of those things. And from off camera, you hear, we can't do what we are going to do from your ship. We need your resources here. Just tell him that. If he wants to waste our time and risk lives, so be it. But let him put it out so everybody knows why people will have died here. And you see the science lead turn, and she is shocked. She is clearly embarrassed that was caught on camera, and she is bothered by the fact that it was said. And she says, Thalor, mind your tongue. That is a superior officer. Yes, we have things that have to be done, but you will respect the rules here. I apologize, Captain. Please let us know what your orders are. We will comply, even if my assistant intends to be rude about it.
I appreciate their intense passion. I, too, have several Andorian officers on my ship and understand how focused they can get on a task. The temperatures are running high. See what I did there? Why don't we have you all beam up? We will brief. You'll tell me what is going on, how we can be of assistance, ensure everyone's safety, find your missing team, and find out what is causing all of these problems.
Happy to comply, Captain. I do need to leave at least one officer here to man the equipment. It must be manually adapted lest we lose control of the situation. Somebody has to stay here. Please let us know who you would like to stay. The rest of us will comply.
Turn to Nilon and I give like the eyebrow like science stuff needing like
Yeah, for your view, Lacey, they have given no information on what the problem is. You don't have any information on what the problem is, but you definitely sense that she's being completely truthful. There's nothing about what she's saying that is untruthful. You can't not catch Thalor's emotions. Like, it's actually harder to get her emotions because since he has been speaking, his emotions are ramping up. Like, you're catching a lot right now.
For him, it
He's-
sounds
Yep.
passionate, but not deceitful or anything.
No, you're not catching deceit. He's actually angry because he's trying to save people. Like, he is focused on what he's doing. He thinks it's critically important, and he views every part of this conversation as risking his goal.
Sir, could I offer an alternative? If maybe when they go up there, you could send an engineering team down, maybe with the XO, to evaluate what's going on down there in person.
I think that's an excellent idea, Mr. Sonari, but I do want to talk with Commander Mabeye before I send anyone down to the surface.
I'll leave one person. Do you insist on my assistant coming? He would probably prefer to stay, sir. And if I'm being honest, I think it would make our conversations much more productive.
You are in charge of this expedition. I will leave that in your capable hands, Commander.
Give us 5 to 10 minutes to secure our workstations, and I'll give you the signal for the 5 that are beaming up, sir.
Very good.
So the communication signs off. You get a little relief from that intense amount of emotion that you were feeling.
Bridge to transporter room 2.
Aye, sir.
We got 5 incoming guests here in a few minutes. Let me know the status of any kind of radiation or interference that may impact transporters.
Aye, sir.
Sir, with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and prepare a team so we can beam down at a moment's notice once this briefing is over.
Mr. Tenari, I want your people to start working on the subspace anomaly problem, whether from here or on the surface. We have better equipment. I'll leave that to you. If you feel you need to go down to the surface, we will look at that scenario.
I'd also like to launch a series of probes in orbit around the planet so we can get a full 360 view of what's going on.
That sounds like a great plan. Lieutenant Nealon, would you work with Mr. Tenari to calibrate sensor probes? Mr. Chizilrer, would you contact Flight Ops and get the Eagle into space and have them start making scans?
So I smile and show you the pad that indicates that I've already got the Eagle started on the queue, and I'm also getting the Kitty Hawk ready in case.
With a quick set of rolls, let's see. With a difficulty of 1, no complications. Whoever needs to lead the sensor calibration and launches, feel free to do so.
That'll be Nealon.
Yep.
I'll assist.
Okay. What role did you say it was?
So it is a
Probably reason science.
Yeah, reason science, and difficulties 1, ship can assist.
Okay. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything that could be useful. Because I think, so if I succeed at this with the ship helping, I can obtain a momentum.
Yep.
I think we'll just go for it. So my first roll was really, I'm rolling digitally today, by the way. So I got a 19, but a 3.
Excellent. All right, we've got your 1 success. Tenari, would you care for the assist? And Adam, if you want to roll for the ship.
Yep.
Okay. I'm assuming reason engineering.
Sure, that works.
If I'm helping to program these, can I use my computer's focus?
Yes.
Okay. That is a 3, which is 2 successes.
Okay. And for the ship?
I rolled a 17.
So that won't get it. All right, with 2 successes, you get 2 momentum because Lacey had 1. And the ship was used, so you get a bonus momentum. So that is 3 momentum in the pool versus 8 threat. I did not mention it at the beginning, but yes, we have 2 threat per player today.
I think my momentum has to be used to obtain information. So I don't know if there's like information that we can obtain from just how the processes are working or something like that. Otherwise, I think it's lost.
I think there is, because you are calibrating the sensors, which means you basically are getting that first look at the existing sensor data before you focused it on any particular task. You have sensor information on the planet, the station, and the quick environment that's not particularly detailed, but you get to ask your obtain information question based on that.
Right. So we can obtain information on the calibration.
Basically, you've got a first look at the sensor data. So
Yeah.
anything that the sensors may have picked up since you've gotten into orbit, you have access to ask obtain information questions based on that.
So maybe there's any indications on what's causing the temperature. Early indications.
Yeah, so early indications, momentum 10, is that the temperature is being caused by a rapid decay of the Genesis proto-matrix. So the planet is in a mode of collapsing upon itself and exploding. This is actually why the team was here, because it didn't do that as fast as Genesis planets have done before. So so the wonder is, why didn't it? So that's why the team was here. This planet had been stable for quite some time. And so the real question at this point is why? And very recently, that seems to have changed. What you can tell is whatever the subspace anomalous readings that they have is interacting and creating this effect. The temperature is coming from the effect that's created. So it's not like the subspace is creating the temperature. The subspace is affecting the protoplanet. The increased temperatures is because of what's happening to the planet itself.
Okay, that's useful.
So your probes are deployed. They are set up around the planet. They will have the ability to provide additional data when called upon to do so. Effectively, you've built a trait for the mission that is called sensor coverage. You already had FlightCon operations set up and ready to go. The newest part of the information has to do with the EV suits. So in this particular case, Adam, it's whether or not your flight crews are prepped with that at this moment. That's going to be a difficulty of 3 because they really didn't know it. It's more about whether or not your orders and teams planned for that eventuality based on what limited information they had going in.
Okay, so that's a roll from me that would probably be
I'm thinking command con because it has to do with flight ops, but it is your command of them.
control
Right?
con would be, yeah,
Yeah.
control con, and then, yeah, I don't have anything that would add to that. You said a 3, and we have momentum?
You have 2 momentum. The ship will help from the con department.
Yep. If I buy 1 die with threat, the other die, the next die has to be 2, correct?
That is a true statement.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to buy 1 with threat.
Excellent.
Okay, and I get only 2 successes.
Okay. And the ship, I'm thinking would be communications and con in this case.
Who wants to roll that?
I will. Ship's got a 3. And I believe
Everything counts as a
looking at-
focus.
and there's a con roll.
Yes.
So the con of the DC is a 5, so that is a critical success.
All right. So that's 2. With your 2, that's 3, 4. So that is 1 momentum. And both shuttles are prepared with an appropriate amount of EV suits for the listed crews that would be on them.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just can't
And-
help but think we're around a Genesis planet and having a con roll.
He tasks me. All right, any momentum spends at this point?
I need to do 1 from the racial ability, intense.
Okay.
In the communications with the surface, would we have been able to pick up anything that we could be applying to how they configured their EVA suits to draw a reference from a different genre entirely? Are they wearing their still suits desert style? Is there anything that we could have picked up from that through telemetry or anything like that that would prep the people that could be going down there for anything they may not be expecting?
Within this 5 minutes, I don't think there's anything you would have picked up directly, but with the momentum spend in that particular question, I think it's fair to say that there are some standard settings on EV suits. Whether or not there's any special settings, you might have to ask that question directly, but it does appear that based on what little information you have right now and the information that's being gathered, that basically they're set up fairly normally, but they're increasing maximum cooling inside the suit and set up to reflect as much ambient heat as possible.
Okay. So just make sure that teams are prepping extra coolant as well.
And that brings us to Captain Tobor. You have assigned folks to do different things. Anything that you wish to specifically do in this 5 to 10 minutes before the bulk of the team beams up?
I'm gonna get whatever database download we sync up and do the handshake with their computer system and get their status reports and their logs. And I'm gonna do a quick computer enhanced search through and do the reading and get myself caught up on what they've been working on, what this thing is that requires manual calibration and constant
Mhm.
manual supervision.
So doing the reading is your talent.
Yeah, I'm mostly setting up the narrative
Yep.
justification for using the talent later.
Okay.
But
So
also, I do want to read the mission logs and find out, like, if anything jumps out, and again, what is this thing that they are doing that can't be left alone?
So I think this would be insight science for a roll. It's going to be 2, but it does with no complication. No, I'm sorry, it'd be a 3 because you're doing it very quickly and there's a lot of information. Yeah, so it'll be a 3.
All right. How many momentum do we have right now?
You have 3 momentum.
And I can get the computer to assist with me, right?
That is a true statement.
So I will buy just 1 die with momentum,
Got it.
and I will use my. Would xenoanthropology help?
No.
Otherwise, I'm going to use my Trill join talent for my twice a session. I'll get a focus from one of my past hosts on scientific expedition, like familiar with what goes into these reports, what is said, what is not said, what is saying it this way actually mean, like kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely knowing what sections to look at to get the most amount of information in the fastest possible time.
Perfect. 12, a 5, and an 18. So that's 2 successes so far.
Tanari, would you care to roll for the ship?
Most definitely.
Computer science will be a 11.
All right. And what's the computers or the science level for the ship?
2.
Okay. I got a 1.
There we go.
So that gives you what, 4 successes?
4 successes.
All right, and there was 3, so that's 1 momentum.
Use my momentum from patient to create a trait or an
All right.
advantage, but based off of.
What the information is. No complications. So essentially, the report indicates that things have been going well for a while. Then, roughly 4 months ago, there were some strange readings. At that point, the planet was relatively stable. There were large areas in the planet's, what they consider to be the eastern hemisphere, that were basically a super caldera that had large lava flows. There seemed to be a minor eruption, minor in that a lot of debris and magma was kicked into the atmosphere, but came back down within the caldera. This is a caldera roughly the size of Australia. Something that hits the center of that ejected material didn't get outside of that, but it was easily noticed. Within a few days, weeks of that, they started noticing more and more of the anomalous readings. They thought it may have had something to do with the eruption and were studying that. It was at that time that the science team was split into 2 different observation posts, and they set up an observation post near that caldera area. And the protocol was checking in 3 times daily, and then there were computer pings that would happen regularly. Roughly 12 hours ago, the computer pinging stopped. They missed 2 check-ins before that. And so they are, one, very worried about them. The reports also indicate that initially they were just anomalous readings. They were determined to be subspace distortions and such that took place. Those subspace distortions created tectonic movement, tectonic problems. Basically, the planet has been in perpetual earthquake mode for quite some time. The 2 observation posts were designed in such a way to not be negatively impacted by that unless they were directly in a crevasse or in a volcanic activity zone. The biggest challenge is the stations themselves do not have the power to transport to and from each other, even with pattern buffers. But with pattern buffers, transport between station and orbiting spacecraft is possible. But they have had no word. They can't get life signs. Planet to planet, there are some difficulties with sensors. Your sensors don't seem to be picking up on that issue, so it's very apparent that this is when you're on the planet, you can't scan the planet kind of situation. But what they do know is that subspace issue got much, much worse. and then it started to subside. It is nearly zero. As the subspace distortion issue has been degrading, the planet has been degrading. What they are doing at that station is they are focusing energies to prop up the subspace distortion. In other words, that's the only thing keeping the planet intact.
And where is this subspace distortion? Is it on the planet or is it somewhere in space?
So that information is not in the reports.
Okay. The other question, and I realize that this is Tobor doing the reading, but something occurs to me. This planet is unstable and could blow at any minute. What's their evacuation capability? Is there a ship nearby? Do they have a ship on the planet?
That other
Or-
station is their other ship.
Okay, so their stations are essentially ships. Got it.
No, not this one. The other one. They basically took their shuttle and created a facility around it or within it, expanding it. So it is the hub, basically the bridge or command center of the secondary outpost.
Is that shuttle still viable to fly?
Not
Do
in
we
the
know?
report.
Okay,
Bearing in mind, it stopped pinging before you got here.
got it.
So I'll fill in Chizilra on what I've found as we're like walking to the transporter room to meet Aisha and them, and then let them know we should vector the Eagle to focus on this caldera and have them start doing some advanced sensor scans.
I'll send those orders via combadge while we're on our way down.
Did you have a specific pilot in mind for the shuttle?
I did. Just a sec. Did not want Murrock in there because of the fact that if we had to send down the Nessie, I want them behind the wheel of that. So it would most likely be whoever was on duty. Probably if Arvik is at the helm right now,
Yep.
I think we'd be tasking Luzon for this.
Lusan reports back. I'll get us there. Do we have any science team members that are going to be with us to work the sensors, sir?
On that ship, I was actually looking at that as well. Thank you. They would have at their disposal Conan from the science division, and then there would have been an engineer that was sent along. So we will say we're sending a petty officer dry.
I was going to say, let's send crewman Makarov. His warp field theory specialization may come in handy,
Okay.
looking at subspace anomalies.
Yeah, and I think that's what I had been digging for. Sounds good.
Same thing with Gorakov. He's got a specialization in subspace theory and sensor systems. He may actually be a better choice than Conan, who's more of a geneticist and a cyberneticist. Just a thought.
They just had the focus in sensor operations, which is why I had sent them down. But yeah, Marv is just as good.
Okay. You could send both.
We have two shuttles that are heading out, so one on each, and then the second one would be piloted by. I don't think we need a combat. Definitely on board for that. What did I say? Rorak is ready to pilot the Nessie, so we would say any of the other two pilots, whichever one happened to be on duty, we'll say Krim is piloting the Kitty Hawk. And while we're on that subject, as I said, we'll be gearing up Murrock to pilot the Kitty Hawk, and we're going to let Petty Officer Kellen know that they are to attend as well.
Okay.
And Lee was able to find out what scientific task scan thing they're doing that requires someone to stay behind.
I may have mentioned it, but I will actually give you that information in specific.
I have a guess. They probably have somebody manually tweaking whatever's holding that subspace field in place.
That was my guess as well.
Figured out that while they're trying to locate the other team and get them back so they can get them off the planet, they are manually adapting to the rapidly deteriorating subspace that's holding the planet together. But as the source of this distortion is diminishing, when that source is gone, there's nothing they're going to be able to do. But if they let go right now, it would overwhelm the planet. What the planet is doing is happening so fast that if the moment that source of subspace goes away, There's nothing that can be done. If they stop boosting that subspace, the planet will overwhelm it. It may not fully explode right away, but it'll be unsurvivable. Like there wouldn't be time for them to fly away from the planet if they stop doing what they're doing.
David, can I assume that Tanari and his team are probably looking at ways that they might be able to bolster that field from our side?
I don't think our
As long
team's
as
been told about it yet.
once they're told that, then they would absolutely be looking at what can we do from here to assist this.
Okay. So if the captain and I are talking about this on the way down, we would definitely let the engineering team know.
Okay. Tanari, you and your folks have that information, so you can start investigating those options. We have our flight teams ready to go. We have CO and the XO headed to Transporter Room 2 to receive guests. You arrive just as they are beaming up, and you see the science team. You notice that 2 of the 6 are actually being propped up by other science team members. They seem, medically speaking, bad off. The science lead is holding up one person. She has a young human ensign with her who is actually holding up one person. And as you arrive, the 4th person in their group begins to teeter and fall over.